Welcome back. It is officially draft weekend with the first round of the draft in the books, and the Falcons had an exciting pick at number 8, and they went with pretty much who everyone predicted. Except for you, obviously. You made it very bold claims that there's absolutely no way the Falcons will draft a receiver with their first pick, and it turns out the guys, the McShays. I don't know all the guys that predicted, but a lot of people had Drake London going to the Falcons. There was interest there from the start. That was clear. And yeah, that's who they selected. At first, and I think a lot of Falcons fans, if you see on Twitter, were upset because it's like, oh, another receiver. Like, here we go again. Like, that's just like been how the Falcons have drafted. Building, like, getting receivers and offensive weapons and never focusing on the defense. And you felt like they'd have a chance to either really bolster the trenches on the offensive or defensive side, get a pass rusher they've been missing. And I understand all that because that's what I wanted, and I think that's what most fans wanted, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we want to see change. We don't want to see what the last regime did. But when you look at how the board shaked out, there's just not that much that I'm like. I mean, a lot of people were talking about Jermaine Johnson. He goes, 24th or 26th? A lot of people are talking about Kyle Hamilton. He falls all the way to 14. And I liked Kyle Hamilton a lot. I thought that would have been a great pick, but the 7 guys that I think were like no-brainers if they fell to 8 all went in front of the Falcons, and Stingley, Gardner, Thibodeau, Okonwu, Neal, Hutchinson, and Walker. So I like, when you look at it that way, like, I don't hate the pick, and I think we just have to wait and see who this Drake London guy figures out, because we obviously talked a lot about the draft, but until then, like, I hadn't watched a lot of USC games, so I never really saw him in action. You watch it on film, whatever. So I think it's a wait and see thing. I'm not going to overreact too hard.
Yeah, it's hard not to have a knee-jerk reaction because of all the things you just said. Thomas Dimitroff and company built those Falcons teams from the outside in, and that's not a recipe for success, as they showed, unless you're hitting on those mid-round picks / in free agency, which they weren't. And, Falcons fans, they're probably right to a certain extent of being mad, but you can't be mad at Drake London. He's going to be a good player. I absolutely guarantee it. He's going to be a good player. He's the first receiver taken off the board. Terry Fontenot said he was the best player left on the Falcons board. And, you got to take his word for it. He might be lying. I doubt he would be lying about that.
Yeah, I don't know why he would be lying.
Yeah, so they went best player available, and it just so happened to fill, arguably the team's biggest need. My problem with it is he's wearing number 22. No, I'm just kidding. But that is a shit number. I can't believe.
Is he actually wearing number 22?
Number 22. That's real. I have no idea. But
is he trying to play running back? Is he the next Cordell Patterson?
Well, I was gonna say some pretty nice things about him. He literally is a running back. I mean, this guy can play on the boundary. He can play on the slot. He played on the boundary in 2021. And when Amon St. Brown was there in 2020, he played in the slot. He can run, a variety of routes, pretty much the whole route tree. And when he gets the ball in his hands, he's uber aggressive. He's that Cordero Patterson-esque type runner. Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith spoke about him in their post-draft presser. They spoke about his mental makeup. This guy's a football guy. Fontenot referenced, go watch his film and try and find a play where he went out of bounds. This guy fights for every inch. He takes a slant and he'll hit that strong safety head on. And that's what, the Falcons really need. It's what Arthur Smith wants in his receivers, that A.J. Brown, that Corey Coleman type receiver, those big bodied receivers who can just take a beating. So it's going to work out for the Falcons. It's not necessarily that this guy's going to be a bust. I truly do believe. I think he was probably my second or third receiver. Him and Garrett Wilson are toss up. Yeah, I still think Jamison Williams was the best receiver. And whatever past that, it's not about the fact that they skipped offensive lineman or pass rusher, because you're right. They just weren't there. I'm sure they tried to trade down. The offers weren't enticing enough. They took the calls and they took the best player that was there. The problem is they didn't hit on their second and third and fourth and fifth round picks last year. And that is where you make up the bulk of your team, not your first round pick. Obviously, Kyle Pitts and Drake London are going to be pillars of this team going forward, but you still need those role players. Jalen Mayfield is just garbage. And I can't believe we're going to walk back into, 2022 with the same 5 starting linemen. It didn't work last year. I'm not saying he's not going to improve, but you can't expect him to improve dramatically. I bet it'll be marginal.
Yeah.
It's all about day 2 and what they do. They have 4 picks today. If they, find a quarterback that they think they like, that's going to ruffle some feathers maybe just because it's not an immediate fix for anything. But yeah, don't get mad about the Drake London. I couldn't have been more wrong. My whole point of saying it won't be a receiver is because I thought Kyle Hamilton and Jermaine Johnson, as well as the first 7 picks, were all rated higher on the Falcons' big board than any receiver. And I was obviously wrong. Kyle Hamilton fell, like you mentioned, and Jermaine Johnson free fall. I couldn't have been more wrong on that. I think a lot of people were wrong on that, but I don't mind admitting it. It's not about, it's a receiver. Just, it was the best player there. And I'm sure they tried to trade out of it and get some value and get some more opportunities in the later rounds. But no team offered a serious trade. And, this is what we have. He's going to be a stud. Don't worry about it. Next year, Bryce Young will be throwing Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. The sad part is I look at this roster and I do look at the offense with Kyle Pitts, Cordell Patterson, and Drake London. And if they do find another receiver or they do patch up that offensive line a little bit, we're not going to be drafting Bryce Young. That team's going to have enough offensive firepower, especially in Arthur Smith's second year. I think they're going to have enough offensive firepower if they can keep, adding to the offense through this draft. But like you said, it's all the most important today. You have 3 second-round picks. And I think in what was a really unpredictable draft, turned out just as unpredictable as we all imagined. There's tons of guys that I'm like, oh, I had no idea this guy was going to go in the first round, that went in the first round. And there was tons of guys that you thought were going in the first round that are still available. And I mean, I think this is a 10 times more exciting day as a Falcons fan coming up, because I think we're going to see, we could be looking at a new quarterback. We could be looking at another wide receiver to kind of, make the receiving cores all of a sudden kind of look more like a strength rather than a weakness. We could be looking at another offensive lineman to patch it up. We could look at additions to the defense. There's so much talent left, and we have 3 picks in the second round and another in the third, that really the draft isn't going to be, about Drake London. Like you said, we're not worried about Drake. I think he's going to be a very good player. But if you want to win this draft, if you want to get significantly better, set yourself up for future success, it's all about today. This is the day. And like you said, I think that is the biggest point here. It shouldn't be about the first pick, and not everything's about the first pick. When you have 3 second-round picks, this is a much bigger day, and there's a ton of talent left on the board. And this is where Terry Fontenot has to, make his money, because otherwise he's going to be looking for a new job. Because things, as we've talked about throughout the offseason, things have not been going great. The last draft class after Kyle Pitts does not look great. Not saying they can't improve, but this draft class, these 3 second rounders need to have an impact this year, because they didn't last year. They need to have an impact this year.
Yeah, every single second, third, and fourth round pick didn't do anything last year. Richie Grant was a mainstay on special teams. Jalen Mayfield was a negative. They just didn't contribute. And again, just like you said, it's not that they can't improve, but you shouldn't expect somebody who performed so poorly their rookie season to just automatically jump. You can't expect Jalen Mayfield to jump to what, the Chiefs' Creed Humphrey did. You can't expect that. That's just ridiculous. It won't happen.
It's literally not going to happen.
Right, exactly. So
at best, he will go from the worst offensive lineman in football to the 20th worst or the 10th worst. He's not going to all of a sudden be a good player.
Right, exactly. They need immediate contributions from these second rounders and third rounders. And I think Richie Grant, I'm still, holding out on Richie Grant because I was a big fan of his coming out of the draft last year. I think that he can, as long as he mentally catches up with Dean Pease and NFL offenses, the physical attributes are there. That's not the question. It's the mental makeup. So, if he starts coming along and then, a couple of these second and third rounders hit, you could start to see the core of the Falcons start to build. But like you said, they're still missing that one piece that every Super Bowl team needs, and it's a quarterback. Marcus Mariota isn't the long-term answer. Matt Corral, a really strange first round. Malik Willis falling out. That
Yeah.
was surprising to
I'm really
everybody, I
excited
think.
about that aspect of today because I really think the Falcons could take a stab at one of these guys. You have 3 second-round picks, and pretty much everyone. I mean, like Kenny Pickett, like I kind of liked him, but I don't really love any of them that much more than the other. And the fact that there's still 3 guys that I like that I believe could be solid franchise quarterbacks if everything goes the right way available, and you have 3 picks in the second round. I think there's a chance the Falcons land one of these guys. And I think you even wrote you should expect them to probably land one of these
I
guys.
would be shocked if they didn't come away with
And
today
let's
with a
go
quarterback.
really down on all of them. Like if they have any hope, like if they think any of them could potentially be a franchise guy, which I think all 3 of them could potentially be it. I don't know how they don't take one of them.
Yeah, I agree. It's
Which is
I would be
exciting. I
really
want a new
shocked.
quarterback. Like as much like we need to start taking stabs, like throwing darts at the board because you don't like I said, I don't think the Falcons are going to be a 2-14 team. I really don't. I think they're going to win 4 to 5 games, maybe even 6 if everything goes the right way. So in that case, you're not guaranteed to get one of those premier quarterbacks that are going to be coming out next year. So I really think taking a stab on a guy this year. Letting him sit behind Marcus Mariota. Maybe if the opportunity arises, he gets some snaps. Probably not, but we'll see. That would excite me. It would give me something to look forward to going into the season. If you drafted a Malik Willis, if you drafted a Desmond Ridder, or who's the other one, Matt Corral.
If I had a preference, I think it would be Matt Corral. Strictly, it's nothing physical because Desmond Ridder and Malik Willis have higher ceilings because of their legs, and Matt Corral can skirt. I mean, the dude can skirt.
Yeah,
but it's the moxie. The guy just carries himself in a different way,
he's got
and
a gun too.
yeah, he's got an arm.
Yeah.
It's just the intangibles that like excite me. He feels like a more believable Baker Mayfield. When Baker Mayfield says stuff, you're like, dude, shut up. I woke up feeling dangerous. It's like nobody believes you. But Matt Corral maybe gives off a different vibe. I just believe in his intangibles more so than the other guys.
Some real swagger. Yeah, well, I'm really excited to see what happens today. I'm not too down on the Drake London pick, and we will be back on Monday. Well, I guess we can say it. We were supposed to do it this week before the draft, but we're bringing the Sports Talk ATL podcast back with me, Alex, and Jake, like it was always supposed to be. It's going to cover all our teams, but our first episode will be mostly recapping the NFL draft and talking about all the picks. So really exciting day for the Falcons today. Hopefully, rise up. We get some good picks, and yeah.